This is Paul McGann, and you're listening to the Fiveish Fangirls podcast.
These tangents as we continue all the way to episode 425 of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. And then in December 1973, Gordon Fletcher wrote this for Rolling Stone. Rumor has it that Queen shall soon be crowned the new Led Zeppelin, which is an event that would certainly suit this observer just fine. There's no doubt that this funky, energetic English quartet has all the tools they'll need to lay claim to the Zepp's abdicated heavy metal throne, and beyond that to become a truly influential force in the rock world. Their debut album is superb. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us as we're all struggling. Let's go around the virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City.
This is Sally from Wisconsin.
This is Rachel in Indianapolis, India. It's more like see who's still awake around the virtual table. Not who's joined us, who's still upright.
And this has nothing. This is not cast anything negative on our topic at hand.
No,
we're just tired.
Yes,
just life. Life hits you hard, and you lay down and nobody wakes you up or bothers you for 5 minutes. You just are like, I'm out.
Yeah.
You reach a certain age and a certain station in life, and you're just kind of like, I just need to rest my eyes for a few minutes, and before you know it, it's 6:30.
Yeah.
Or whatever time.
Yeah. Holy crap! I need to be doing stuff.
Yep. But hopefully, our musings upon the other Fab Four from England will keep us awake.
Yep. Well, first up, the news. Not a whole lot of news, but my wallet is already crying. But I am going to have to jump on this. So I'm sure there's a tear in there somewhere that won't make my wallet cry too much. But Boom Studios has announced that
my wallet's going to be crying with you, Rachel.
Yeah, are launching a Kickstarter for what is going to be who knows what else they're going to include, but a graphic novel series, it sounds like it's going to be more than one, of Jim Henson's Labyrinth. So
yep, like this is gonna be fun.
Yep.
I've already had Kickstarter. Please alert me when this goes on sale.
Which, as we're recording this, is tomorrow. So.
Ooh, boy. Okay.
Yeah.
At least the Kickstarter starts tomorrow. So.
Right. And as Kickstarters go, there will be several weeks where you can jump in on this, and even after they
and then there'll be stretch goals and
yep.
I'm sure it'll fund quickly.
Yep.
Oh yes.
So, yeah. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of Kickstarter is just.
Well, at Boom Studios, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They already have the comic series for Fraggle Rock. So
now did Boom do the earlier Jareth ones, the non-manga? Or am I thinking of a different studio?
That might be different because I don't see it on Boom's website.
Okay.
So
let's see. I'm gonna look that up.
Oh yes, no, they did. Sorry, you're right.
Okay.
There it is.
The animation style, art design.
They've
style
done they've done Labyrinth, and they've done the Dark Crystal. And even Jim Henson's the storyteller. They are the ones who do the Power Rangers comics, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Firefly. So yeah, they're not newbies.
They're not slouches when it comes to storytelling and great artwork and all that good stuff. So
yep. So yeah, and I forgot, I didn't pay attention to who released it. I have read the Labyrinth. So
yep,
the Coronation comics. Yeah.
But I am.
I just didn't pay attention to who.
Story.
Yeah.
gimme.
Yep. Give me all the things.
Yes.
There are some grabby hands over here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I mean, at least this way we are still able to get Jareth in the David Bowie form. I mean, I know they're talking about doing another movie, but it's just like,
nope.
Yeah,
please.
I think the movie is a one and done, especially after the unfortunate passing of David Bowie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, who could they recast for that role?
Nobody.
I don't think.
I mean, unless they would cast Adam Lambert as some offshoot cousin or nephew taking over.
That would be the stunted line of the tree that nobody ever talks about.
Yes.
Tree.
Yeah.
So let's just leave that one alone. And comics are great.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the only one I could think of. Push comes to shove.
I mean, of all the franchises they've tried to resurrect from the 80s and have kind of not gone over well, they've left Labyrinth alone and they've left Back to the Future alone. So
I'm hoping they leave Highlander alone, because I mean, I know there's been talks, but no touchy.
Yeah. I'm like, there's just some stuff. It's like, I mean, they tried to float the idea of remaking Princess Bride, and that was roundly shot down.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just some things you just don't mess with.
But comics do that. We ride at dawn with pitchforks.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, but like I said, let's keep it to comics, and we'll be good. That will be just fine.
Yep. So that's
this will be fun.
Yeah. That's really kind of it for the news, although we do have some housekeeping. We have a new episode of Gold Standard in the feeds with episode 80, as crazy as that is, with No Country for Old Men. So it was an interesting discussion, to say the least.
When are the Gold Standard discussions not interesting? I just feel
that's
like
true.
Time,
that is
every
true.
time one comes up, and you're just kind of like, and this was a movie.
Mm-hmm.
With a couple of exceptions, but not many.
Yeah, for the most part, we usually find something to grab onto to make it so that it's just not like this was a movie and it was okay. So
yeah. So
yep. So there is
check that out.
Yep. Wherever you find the podcasts. Yep. And then good chunk of the reason why I'm so tired is I'm coming off of a con. So I had InConJunction this past weekend here in Indy, which is always a fun convention. I mean, it's on the smaller side, which there's nothing wrong with that. And it's definitely more panel forward, and they do have guests of honor, but it's not celebrity focused by any means. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. I had a table in the vendor hall, which at the very least, it's always nice to have a place where you can just kind of keep your stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but in this case, we were in a different hotel than we normally are in. But thankfully, this is a hotel that I am somewhat familiar with because I've been to other events at this location. But unfortunately, that the Wyndham, that particular hotel, is on the older side and really could use some renovations, but that's not for me to spend money on. But
I'm sure they'll get around to it.
Yeah, but it's an interesting layout, and because of it, some of the rooms aren't as big as what you'd expect. So unfortunately, they're not able to fit all of the vendors in one room. So they almost had a separated vendors in one room, and then like authors and there were people there from VoltCon, there were people there from Starbase Indie, the art guest of honor, the author guest of honor. They were all over there, so we were kind of separated. So it made it a little harder for to talk and catch up with familiar faces, because you had to kind of leave the area you were in and go to a completely different area.
Although if you do have to split it up, that's not a bad way to do it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not ideal, but
yeah,
and
the way it was, the number of like authors versus other types of vendors, that we still had authors in our area, just because this is a very literary focused convention. It started with a bunch of book nerds that just kind of wanted to get together and talk about their favorite science fiction and fantasy books that they were reading and writing. That's kind of
how the best things start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That being said, I had the best booth placements.
Yes, you sure did.
I didn't know that going into it. No. But I was right next to the vendor like operations table. So the vendors could kind of, that's where they check in and get their badges and find out where they're placed, and that's where they get asked questions. So, it was manned the entire time. But it was mostly manned by the teenagers of some of the con staff. Have a child, you get free labor.
Pretty much. It's like, you want to borrow the car tonight, you got to come help me with this.
Yeah. But one of the con staff was using their space as often on puppy sitting location, because she had her two dogs with her. And so they weren't stuck up in her hotel room the entire time. And since she was constantly moving, they couldn't necessarily stay with her. So they built a little pen and, put down some plastic and some potty pads and their beds and their water bowls and stuff. And so that became the puppy area, which was really funny, because then anytime somebody walked in the door, one of the girls would be like, "Welcome, would you like to pet a puppy?"
Puppy! That is quite the selling point.
Yeah. Like, come in, pet a puppy, and then you'll be so full of endorphins you'll want to spend all your money. Mm-hmm. So that was Scout and Archer. Aww. They are I don't know what what the nickname is, but they're Malt, they're and Yorkie.
Aw, Maltese Yorkie.
Yeah, they're Maltese Yorkies. But they're really cute. Scout, bit more adventurous and friendly than Archer. At one point, Archer, while being held and getting cuddles, gave both the person holding him and me, because I was right there, this look that if looks could kill, I would have been dead on Friday. So
how dare you disturb my nap?
Pretty much. That's pretty much what it was. Archer was perfectly comfy where he was, and how dare you pick me up?
Like, yeah, like I know I'm adorable, but no one bothers me.
Yes.
He's just so cute.
Your punishment is belly rubs.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And then at one point, we also had Rosie, who belongs to another one of the con staff, who she is some sort of Chihuahua mix who looks like she's about 5 million years old. She only has 2 teeth left. So sweet. But she was old. And just kind of wanted to just hang out. And be an old lady. And then the people in the booth on the other side of me, so I was sandwiched. They had their service dog, the wife's service dog, who this was the dog's first time working, as going to a convention. So she's still very much training, trying to figure out. But her name is Cupcake.
Aww.
And she's a golden corgi.
Oh.
So she's golden. She's a golden retriever trapped in a corgi's body.
Oh,
and she was the sweetest thing ever. I was like, I will take my corgi fix even if it's only half.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she really is. This is the way it is with most corgi mixes. Really, they just look like whatever the non-corgi is with really short legs. Is usually how it turns out. So in this case, she looked like a golden retriever with really short legs, and she had the golden retriever hair, so she was so soft. She could have been in a Pantene commercial. But she was just the sweetest thing. And then there are a few other people I saw with dogs. Because the hotel itself is dog friendly, so that's partially is. So although one of the other, I didn't get any pictures of Rosie, I did get a few pictures of Skip or Skippy. I can't remember if it's just Skip or Skippy, who was in the Doctor Who room at the same time I was in there. So yeah, but there were a lot. I got a dog fix. I was getting my dog fix all weekend, and it made me very happy.
That's always a bonus.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm not gonna complain there. So that being said, the 3 panels which I talked about last week, from what I can tell from the feedback I got from people, that they went really well and they really enjoyed them. So that's good. I have audio from the library one and the Lost Women Authors of Sci-Fi, although I've not listened to the audio yet. I don't know how good it is because the acoustics in the room were kind of awful, and we didn't have much in the way of AV equipment. So we just kind of had to rely on what we had. I will give that a listen, and if any of it's salvageable, I will edit it into something and probably post it on YouTube. So we'll see. But yeah, all 3 panels seem to go over really well. So that is good. And of course I 2 of the 3 were brand new, first time presenting to the public. So, of course, I'm like, okay, I'm going to make some tweaks here and some tweaks there. And I was even making tweaks before I did the panels. I'm at my table with my laptop out. It was in PowerPoint making slight changes. I'm like, I gotta stop doing this. So, I can't help it. I get ideas at random spots at random times, and sometimes they're not the most convenient. So, and then, of course, we had another bundle of games to raffle off. So, we ended up doing the giveaway on Sunday. And once again, to make sure that the ticket drawing was impartial and nobody could claim I was making favorites, because I knew some of the people that bought tickets. Cupcake picked the winning ticket.
Good job, Cupcake.
Yes.
Yep. So if anyone has issues with why their ticket didn't get pulled, you can take it up with Cupcake.
And she'll give you consolation kisses.
Yes. And her response to your argument may just be to lick you to death. So be prepared. But yeah, and it seemed to go over well. It was really funny because when I got the games from the different companies and was divvying them out, trying to decide which one would be best for each event. I decided that some of them made the most sense for the audience at InConJunction. And I was right, because I don't know how many times when people were looking at the bundle would be like, oh, I love Poetry for Neanderthals. I love that game. Which in Poetry for Neanderthals, apparently there's a inflatable like club. Like what you say, like the stereotypical wooden club you would see with cavemen. That you blow it up and you hit people with it, and that's part of the game, which is probably why so many people love Poetry for the Neanderthals. So
you get to bonk people on the head. Hey,
you get to bonk people on the head. So yeah, it had Poetry for Neanderthals, really loud librarians. I thought that was appropriate as well. A tiny set of Cards Against Humanity. And Business Walrus. Where you come up with your best business idea and then you pitch it to the Business Walrus. So.
All right.
So yeah. That was fun as always. And then I managed to go 90% of this entire convention without buying a single thing.
Wow.
And then like the last hour, I don't know what happened.
Your convention sense was going, Rachel, you haven't spent money. We gotta go nuts.
Apparently. So, well, first
your
off,
Constitution saving throw did not.
Yeah,
go
I mean,
well.
I did spend $5 on raffle tickets for the Doctor Who club that has a presence every year. They've got a room designated just for them, where they show up as a Doctor Who and Torchwood and other things tangentially related to Doctor Who, and they always have a raffle of goodies, a whole bunch of lots usually, to help raise money to keep the club going, because then they have a club picnic every year, so that helps pay for that. But they had a couple of lots that included a six doctor DVD. So, if I'm gonna put my ticket in anywhere, it's gonna be where there's six doctor stuff. So
no
which
brainer.
I ended up winning one of them. So
Yay!
I got a copy of Revelation of the Daleks.
Ooh,
There
good
you
one.
go.
On DVD. So not that I need it, because I have the Colin Baker years, like fancy box sets. But, I got to make sure all six Doctor media goes to a good home that's really going to appreciate it.
Well, yes. And, sometimes you need backups in case people are like, hey, I want to watch that one. Can I borrow it?
Yeah.
Library copy here.
Yeah.
Sending library copy.
Yeah. And really, that's the only thing in the lot that I really cared about. Although I did end up getting a copy of Franny and Zoe by J.D. Salinger. I have no idea.
Interesting.
So I guess we'll see. I've never actually read Salinger, so not even Catcher in the Rye. So we shall see. There's a kind of graphic comic book called The Glass Tomb by Terry Moore. So I have no idea. So I'll have to read that. And there's a magazine in here for it's the Hollywood Spotlight, the Ultimate Guide to Ted Lasso.
Oh, nice.
So,
cool.
Which I've not watched, but now that I'm watching soccer, I feel like I probably should.
It's good, Rachel. It is good.
Yeah. And then, this is so funny. I own a copy of Whose Boat Is This Boat? Comments that don't help in the aftermath of a hurricane.
That is quite the title.
Yeah. It was a fundraiser done by Stephen Colbert in the Late Show after Hurricane Florence.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, but it's comprised solely of quotes from the guy who was president at the time, whose name will not be mentioned. For fear of the feds.
Oh boy.
So I was in it for the Sixth Doctor DVD. So.
Yep.
And then I did buy a piece of art from the art show because I'm art trash. Which all of the art in the art show was all done by either current sometimes they're the artists, like the art guest of honor that year. Sometimes it's some of its past art guests of honor. Man, I cannot speak. Sometimes it's art just by fans, people who attend InConJunction on the regular, or maybe they're on the board or stuff like that. I picked up this print from Betsy Mott. I have to look and see, because I believe she's been an art guest of honor, but I have to see what year. But anyway, it's Sarah and Jareth from the ballroom scenes in Labyrinth.
Ooh.
So then I picked up a couple books. And I've seen this guy at several other cons, and finally I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy your book. And then he's like, no, I've got a sequel now. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll buy the sequel too. Actually, it's a sequel / prequel. So he said, once you read the first one and then you read the second one, and if you go back and read the first one again, you'll be like, oh, that's that thing. So
okay.
Yeah, it helps fill in some gaps.
Okay, I'm just trying to think, like, how would that work? Okay.
Kind of like Doctor Who, wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey.
Well, true. It's just okay.
But the author's Benjamin O'Neill, and the first book is called The Serpent's Gift, and then the second one is called Rise of the Fallen. But the essentially the plot of the first novel is that heaven and hell are actually planets.
Okay.
And Earth is the basis for a battleground between heaven and hell. So, but they're planets instead of, and Earth turns out to be one of the most important planets in the galaxy. So, and there's the idea that maybe hell isn't as bad as you think, and maybe heaven is not as good as you think. Kind of Good Omens-esque.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what sold me. Is it's like heaven and hell aren't necessarily the labels that people have labeled them with. So
interesting.
So I will give that a read. So it'll come in handy when I go camping in a couple weeks and I don't have internet and hardly any cell phone signal. So
yes, take lots of reading material.
Yep.
And load up your Kindle if you have. I'm sure you
knew. I did. I gave it to Chauncey.
Oh well.
But it's all good. So yeah, I had fun. It's InConJunction. It's very laid back. Although even then there were a few times where I'm like, I can't be in 12 places at once, even though I want to be. That's not their problem. That's mine. Really. But yeah, it was fun. It's always a fun little con. And they're always taking suggestions for programming and guests of honor. So if any of our listeners know anyone that's like a really cool author or artist and thinks that they may be a good guest at InConJunction, then send them an email. Go to the website, send them an email. So yeah, I look forward to next year. And I already told them, I was like, if we do the same booth layout next year, I want to be in the same spots. It's like, I want to be next to the doggos again. I put that on my post convention survey. I'm like, I would like to be in the same spot, please. I even told one of the staff where she asked, she's like, how's your booth? Like, is it good? I'm like, yeah, can I be here next year? She's like, yes. I will make a note. So I'm like,
I would like to be here. I would like to be here permanently next to the puppies.
Yes.
Thank you.
I will be their biggest cheer squad over here, and I will totally watch the puppies if need be.
Yes.
Take one for the team.
Yep. And can Cupcake be right next to us again, please?
Yes, please. Oh my! So
can I at least request the same setup for a few tables, please?
Yep. It's like, can we just repeat this again next year, please? So hopefully next year we won't have a day Saturday, which usually is your busiest con day, won't be not literal cats and dogs, but raining cats and dogs, just an absolute deluge. It was awful, which I think kept some people away just because like the last month or so, every time that the Indianapolis area has gotten rain, it's usually not just been rain, it's been like bad, like tornado type weather. In some cases we did get tornadoes, but thunder and lightning and power going out or power flickering. So like, I'm not surprised that we had a day where it was like that and people were maybe like, I'm not going to go outside. I'm not leaving my house.
Yeah.
So
I
hopefully
could see where that would be an issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was raining and thundering and lightning really heavily when I left my house Saturday morning, and I was looking a little bit like a drowned rat by the time that I got to my car. So, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, glad you made it through it without major incident.
Yes. Yeah. So the rain I can handle, but the thunder and light. I swear it thundered at one point. I thought I felt the floor shake. So
Oh,
it's
fun.
like, yeah, that could have been just in my head. I don't know. But anyway, InConJunction, easy enough to plan ahead for because it's always the weekend closest to the 4th of July. That's the first full weekend in July, usually. So, and I guess we'll find out if it's going to stay in its new location or probably more than likely. So, and maybe by next year, the construction will be done. Not likely.
Oh.
Anyway, that's a rant for another time.
Oh, construction.
Yep. That is a soapbox rant for another time. So let's do feedback. Let some other people give their opinions on things. Of course, we got some feedback from Shalane. She said, first Comic-Con guest. I've seen mostly all of Don Bluth's films, and here are the films he did in order: Secret of Nim, American Tail, Land Before Time, All Dogs Go to Heaven, Rockadoodle, Thumbelina, Troll in Central Park, The Pebble and the Penguin, and Anastasia and Titan AE. So she says, I think this is the first time FanX has gotten a director for a guest. I don't know.
That I am aware of. Like it's not, a actor director type of thing, but yeah. I think, well, and I think because Don Bluth is such a big deal, also he is pretty local to us, so it's an easy get. And it's like, but I already gushed about that last week. I'm excited. So yeah, but yeah, to my knowledge, I think she's right. This is probably the first time it's like specifically it's a director.
Yeah, directors are not usually where they're known for being directors. Like you said, there's some actor directors out there, but for some people, their bread and butter is being a director. They're not ones you usually see at comic conventions. It's like when I got to meet Sam Raimi. I'm like, this is kind of weird, but cool all at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and I mean, I don't want to speak for all directors because I honestly don't know, but I kind of wonder if like they're more of a, hey, I'm behind the camera for a reason sort of thing, and they're not really, because actors are like, I am performing, darling, sort of a thing. But yeah, directors are probably like, not that they don't like the fans, but it's like maybe they're not really, and like for the most part, who knows what what directors look like? You know them by name probably, or their style, but unless they're like really big, like a Steven Spielberg or James Cameron or something like that. I just no, I know I'm just spitballing here, but
yeah,
I wonder if that's just the case.
Yeah, maybe,
and that's fine.
Yep. She says, I believe there's going to be lots of Anastasia cosplays. Might be.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah. So also Don Bluth used to work for Disney. He did, and he attended college in Utah.
Yep. He's from here originally.
Yep.
So.
And she says, I've also met James Oliver Phelps at my first Comic-Con when Chris Evans was there. Probably because all the crowds were like, oh my God, Captain
America. Yeah, pretty much.
Yep. Says, looks like this year FanX is going to be Back to the Future, Saved by the Bell, Star Wars, or Trek, Twisted Tunes, DC, and Marvel events like always. There's nothing wrong with that. Also, they announced Janet Varney. She's the voice of Korra from the sequel of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Some of the guests have been to FanX more than once. Hey, if it's a good event, why not?
Yeah.
Says also, I think Don Bluth and Christopher Lloyd will be reunited since Anastasia. Well, who knows if they've seen each other since. I think they have the voice of Dimitri Fanex one time, plus Nick Carter's the brother of the late Aaron Carter. Nick Carter has been on The Masked Singer. Yes, he has. Now going back to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, it's kind of funny. This is both Disney and Warner Bros. Mixed, but it's mostly done by Disney. Adult studio Touchstone. This movie used to scare me when I was a kid because yes, all movies from the 80s that were kids movies were scary until The Little Mermaid came around. I don't know. Ursula getting punctured by that boat, kind of a little scary if you ask me.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, a lot of 80s movies. Kids were tough back then, man.
Yeah.
And I think you kind of had to be.
Yeah.
I mean, Shalane, have you watched American Tail lately?
Yeah. Never ending story.
Yeah. Land Before Time. Although I really love Land Before Time, even with the scary parts. It's so great. It's that idea. It's like, as long as there's a happy ending, you can show kids, it can be scary. It's okay.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm trying not to re-traumatize myself. But I've only seen the late Bob Hoskins in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Super Mario Brothers, Hook, Balto, Christmas Carol, Jim Carrey, and Made in Manhattan. I remember going on the Roger Rabbit ride on my first trip to Disneyland. Good. Going back to Don Bluth, who terrorized us. I read The Little Girl Who Played Ducky in Land Before Time, and Anne Marie and All Dogs Go to Heaven passed away before All Dogs Go to Heaven was released. That terrorized. She's trying to say that terrorized me then, and when I watch All Dogs Go to Heaven now, All Dogs Go to Heaven. I can't. It terrorized me. It terrorized me and makes me sad because I have such a soft spot for dogs.
Right.
Same here.
Right.
Yep.
But I mean, it tries to, rightfully kind of make it a little better. It's like, hey, good dogs. Dogs go to heaven and it's okay. But at the same time, it's like, but I don't want my dog to go at all.
No, stay here.
Stay here and be my pooch.
Yes.
So.
Or the only time you can go is when I go. we go together.
Like we're gonna walk up to St. Peter and I'm gonna introduce you and he's gonna give you scritches and he's gonna let us in. That's just how it is.
Yeah. I said, see, she says, the last time when I said Top Gun Maverick is not a popcorn flick, that's only rom-coms, and you explain what popcorn flicks are. Then I was like, okay, that's what popcorn flicks are. I mean, I'm sure that, people could probably argue about what is a popcorn flick and what is not, but generally, at least in my humble opinion, popcorn flicks are they're just not that deep. They don't make you don't have to think a whole lot. You can just kind of sit there and eat your popcorn and you're going to be entertained. And at the end of the movie, you're just going to be like, that was fun.
Yes.
Yeah, it's what the summer blockbuster is kind of supposed to be. So it's not really a genre per se. It's just like, hey, this is fun. We're enjoying ourselves. It's not like thought-provoking or anything. It's entertaining. It's, we come to the movie theater for a couple hours, just to have some fun. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Despite what Nicole Kidman might say about heartbreak.
Well, whatever.
Yeah. It's like, well, if you're looking at like what's the movie's about to come out. Barbie, probably going to be a popcorn flick. Oppenheimer, which opens the same weekend, not going to be a popcorn flick.
No.
So,
nah.
If that gives you any idea. So.
Yeah. Most Christopher Nolan films, you really got to pay attention. I mean,
even the Batman.
Even the Batman movies, you still kind of have to be like,
if anything else for the performance.
Yes, that too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
especially with Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So
yeah.
There's a YouTuber that I follow that he lost a bet, and his punishment is he has to dress up as Ken and go see the Barbie movie. And he's like, well, I'm going to make it a double feature because I want to see Oppenheimer as well. So he's going to go to Oppenheimer dressed up as Ken and then go see the Barbie movie, or one or the other. Just like it's like picks, please.
Yeah.
I've seen the mashup of a movie poster floating around.
Barbieheimer.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's like they're well aware of just how two distinctly different movies are opening the same weekend.
Yeah.
And the respective casts are having fun because like Margot Robbie posted a picture of herself with one of the other girls that's in the Barbie movie in front of a poster for Oppenheimer with their tickets, saying, we got our tickets, we're ready to go see Oppenheimer when it's released. And then in response, it's Robert Downey Jr. and I can't remember who the other person is standing in front of the Barbie movie poster with their tickets for Barbie. So,
I mean, it's not unusual.
They're being supportive of each other, so yeah.
I mean, it's not unusual for movies to kind of counter each other. So like, okay, there's the action flick with a lot of violence and gore and whatever, and then opposite is the animated family movie or the rom-com or something else. It's just these two are just so diametrically opposite, and I don't think there's anything else of note coming out that day, so it's these two big movies. It's funny. I actually think that's because I'm not really like, I play with Barbies, but I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to go see the Barbie movie because I'm like, this isn't really for like, if you I don't know. Barbie was fine when I was a kid, but if I watch, I mean, I like Christopher Nolan movies fine, but I'm like, I can only watch them once and then my brain is dead. Like, nope. I don't know that this is one I'm interested, but it is funny to watch all the back and forth with the cast and other people just telling jokes and memes and stuff. It's very wholesome fun, honestly. Which is what I like about it.
Yeah. Let's see here. She says, I think I remember you girls said that Black Widow was a popcorn flick, or was that Fantastic Beasts? Probably both, actually. She says, I looked up when freeways were invented around the 1950s. In our world, yes. In Toontown, maybe not so much. The only Robert Zemeckis movies I have seen, I think I mentioned this before, but I'll do it again. Back to the Future, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Forrest Gump, Castaway, Polar Express, The Walk, Christmas Carol, Pinocchio, the live action version with Tom Hanks. So, my childhood was Mickey Mouse and Friends cartoons, Looney Tunes, Scooby-Doo, Flintstones, and mostly Disney, Cartoon Network, and Nickelodeon. Like, you grew up like us, or at least like me. The movies that terrified me growing up were Fox and the Hound, An American Tale, Land Before Time, Beauty and the Beast, The Black Cauldron, but I love it. Nightmare Before Christmas, part of the Never-Ending Story. We all know which part you're referring to. Bambi, and of course, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Yes, those all have bits that are quite scary.
That's kind of the the traumatizing welcome basket.
Welcome, child, to movies. Watch these. They're cartoons. You'll love them. Yes. One Disney movie that friends said scared them when they were younger was Alice in Wonderland, but I love it. I don't see why it's scary. I don't know. Maybe if you're scared about having your head chopped off by the Queen of Hearts, maybe.
Though there was the one scene.
It's the drugs. That's what it is.
Well, the one scene that freaked me out in Pinocchio was with the with the boys when they
turning into donkeys, into asses.
Oh
yes.
gosh,
that traumatized me. I'm like, nope, okay, not doing that. Nope.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, I can see definitely that. Yeah. I could kind of see maybe the Queen of Hearts being kind of scary to kids. Maybe if they know someone that's like loud and yells like that, has a temper. So
yeah, I remember like Alice being like lost in the forest. Was kind of scary, but then like she like sits down, cries, and sings a song, and everyone and all the little creatures come out and feel sorry for her. So I'm like, that's okay. But yeah.
Yep. So she finished up, says, plus since this year is both Disney and Warner Brothers celebrating 100 years, this movie is perfect to celebrate both. That was not our intention. That's just one of those happy accidents that happens when you're podcasting. All right. And then we've got some feedback from Aaron. His subject line said, a laugh can be a very powerful thing. Why sometimes in life it's the only weapon we have. And that is so true. Sometimes I have to laugh, otherwise I'll cry. Says, hello, Fiveish hosts. I learned that I share one big thing in common with Chrissy, and that is the terror instilled upon me by the monstrosity known as E.T.
Solidarity, man. Solidarity.
When I was a kid, my family watched it, and that wrinkly neck-stretching Reese's Pieces munching blob gave me nightmares. That is the most vivid description of E.T. I've ever heard in my life.
Perfect.
Yes.
Spot on.
Yep.
Wrinkly neck-stretching Reese's Pieces munching blob.
Yep.
I'm going to use that as an insult for somebody sometime.
Now the funny thing is, I can't remember if I mentioned this or not, but I did get an ET plushie for Christmas later that year, and he's like kind of more of a pinkish color, so he's not like that wrinkly whatever, and he's cute as hell. I still have him, and I loved him. I love. He was my favorite. I could not stand the movie, but I'm like, you're cute in plushie form. And so I could handle the plushie. The movie version, although I do have to admit, because I watched a YouTube video where someone was like watching E.T. for the first time and reacting to it, and I was like, I can do this. The scene where he is up in the kitchen and finds the beer and gets drunk and is cutting between the classroom, I'm like, okay, I remember that being funny. Yeah. But all the other stuff, like, and they just showed like clips as the guys reacting to it. I'm like, yeah, I remember being traumatized by that part and that part and that part, that one too. But him getting drunk and running into things, and Elliot is at school feeling the effects of it is pretty funny. But yeah, like the scene where he's in with the stuffed animals and the mom opens the closet and he's hiding in there, that gave me nightmares. So Aaron, I'm glad to hear that there's somebody else, because I always thought I was kind of a wuss. Like, no, I know this is supposed to be a heartwarming, cute movie, but you made it look so scary, Spielberg. What the hell?
Well, and it didn't help matters any too when the feds come crashing through when Elliot and E.T. are sick. I mean, in those spaces, like crashing through the windows like zombies.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, and I realized, like, you're coming into someone's house like that, like, dude.
Yeah.
This is messed up.
You could knock. Use the front door. Don't go through the window.
Maybe call, and then the poor mother is like, she has no idea any of this has been going on in her house.
No.
Oh, geez. Anyway, this movie. Anyway, continue. Yeah. Sorry. I just had to.
There's a YouTube channel called Cinema Therapy, but this is not the type of therapy that.
I think maybe I should write. That.
Maybe I should write to them anyway and be like, "You should an episode on ET, please."
Yeah, I think I actually discovered them over the weekend. It was recommended to me. It was one about why Frollo is from Hunchback of Notre Dame is a terrible person. I'm like, you don't have to tell me on this, but I want to hear a therapist's take on it. That was a good episode. of the YouTube channel.
Aaron continues. Of course, I couldn't tell that to people because I would get laughed at for being scared of a children's movie. It took me almost 20 years before I decided it was time to face my fears, and surprisingly, I thought the movie was actually pretty good. It's not one I rush to rewatch, but it's no longer a deep fear of mine.
I still get the gibblies from it. I mean, I haven't watched it all the way through in a long time, but some clips I'm just kind of like, ugh. Mm-hmm. But like I said, the bits where drunk E.T. is wandering around the kitchen and not running into things, that is funny.
Yep. Now for Roger Rabbit. When I was younger, my sister got it from our library and we watched it. I thought it was good, but not the slapstick humor I was expecting. When my sister was surprised by how much darker it was than she remembered. It wasn't until I was much older and I saw it again, I appreciated everything about it much more. For Zemeckis to perfectly blend animation and live action as well as he did back then, that alone will make the movie stand the test of time. When hearing who else was all considered for the role of Eddie Valiant, I just have a hard time picturing the other actors. What made Bob Hoskins so perfect is that he played the character straight, letting the script itself and his co-stars provide the humor. I feel like someone like Bill Murray or Eddie Murphy would try and insert extra humor that would take away from the character. It's like Michael Caine in Muppet Christmas Carol. A serious actor surrounded by goofiness is a formula for success. Absolutely. Take care, Aaron. Absolutely.
Yes. And it made his scene at the end where he does have to kind of goof off to distract the weasels even more impactful. But yeah, definitely, he's got to be the straight-laced detective surrounded by all the goofiness, and it is. Maybe that's why I like Muppet Christmas Carol so much. Just because you got just the serious character and Muppets. Like, come on.
Well, I think it's like especially that scene with Eddie, trying to get the weasels to laugh themselves to death. The thing is, like, if they'd switched it, that was Roger, I don't think the weasels would have laughed.
They wouldn't have fallen for it.
It's what they expect from someone like Roger. For Eddie to be doing it, it's so absurd that you can't help but laugh.
Right, it catches them off guard.
So, well, thank you, Aaron and Shalane, for your feedback as always. So, all right, bust out those record players, kids. Or your Spotify playlist, whatever works. So we are going to discuss not one, but two Queen albums that really, they could have just released this as one big like double album, and and it would have been perfectly fine if they hadn't had the issues recording behind the scenes. But this was Queen's first and second album, so they didn't know any better. So
they were learning.
Who releases a double album as their debut release?
True.
I mean, but nowadays, 50 years later, we would have been like, well, it's Queen, that tracks. But at the time, it would have been unheard of.
Right. And they were, still figuring things out, still learning the ropes and still but not, no, I don't want to say not musically, because both of these, it's like, usually when you hear of an artist's like debut albums, like, and you go back and listen to it, like, okay, yeah, this is fine. I can see where some of your later things will come from, but it's your first go. Nobody expects much from you. Oh my gosh, Queen hit the ground running.
It's like if you didn't know any better, you could be like, yeah, this was like released in the 80s. This is later in the career. I mean, Queen, just like they knew what their sound was from the very start. It was just a matter of taking what they had been doing in live performances for 2 years up to the point where they finally got a record deal. They'd already been performing live for 2 years, and they knew what sounded good, and they knew what they liked, and it was finding producers and technicians that could replicate that in a recording.
And wouldn't try to tell them, you don't know what you're talking about, when Queen, in fact, did know what they were talking about.
Yes. I will say this. It's like, I mean, Queen, like they have their sound, but then also through the years they experiment with a bunch of different things. I think first time I heard this, I think it kind of surprised me just how metal some of their tracks are on the first Queen album.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Yeah. It's like I kind of dig this. This is great. Like, and they're still doing a bunch of different things that don't seem like they go together, but they kind of do. Just when you listen to it. Now, remember, kids, back in the day, music came all together on a record and later 8 tracks and cassette. So you listen to the whole thing all at once. There was none of this pick and choose what your favorite song is. So an album was a complete experience, kind of like if you go to a concert and you have the complete show. So
the thing is, that's what this kind of feels like, and that's what they kind of intended with the tracks in the sequence that they are in, because that last track on the first Queen album, the 7 Seas of Rye, as I like to call it, the 75 seconds of Rye.
Yes,
right.
That's
it feels like going into intermission.
Yes,
and then you pick up a Queen 2 with the prelude.
Uh-huh.
Another instrumental, and then you go. It's like it's not considered a concept album because from beginning to end, it's not one cohesive. But it's also, and that's why I wanted to put these 2 albums together, is because there's themes that run across both of them. There's a song about brothers and sisters, or sons and daughters,
right,
on the first one, and then father son, and then you've got songs about kings on the first one, and songs about queens on the second one, and fairies on both of them. So it's like,
and what's fun about this one, going back to like my comment about it being metal, is that there is a subgenre of metal which is like, sword and sorcery metal, and I cannot remember like when it really became a big thing, but like there's metal albums based on like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. Well, Freddie Mercury was actually working on a story.
I think that's partially why they were, it's like the guy from Rolling Stone was referring them to like Led Zeppelin, because Led Zeppelin is another band that has references to things in literature. They literally name drop Mordor
and Gollum.
And Gollum,
and Freddie Mercury, for all his talents, was actually working on a fantasy story, I think with his sister, or is it something they've been doing all their lives? Yeah. And he was trying to put together, and some of these songs, like obviously, Great King Rat, Ogre Battle, March of the Black Queen, the White Queen, all the fairy, which is it called, Fairy Feller
Stroke, something like that,
Master Stroke, or something like that.
The Fairy Feller's Master Stroke,
Stroke,
yes,
there we go.
That one. So all of those are like, these are songs that are from his fantasy story, because of course Freddie Mercury is working on a work of a fantasy novel. I have no idea if it was ever published. I would love to read it if it was.
Same here.
And just,
I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all that he would be doing that. Nope.
And I just love how like the band is just like, okay, we'll put that in there. We're and they all just were, this is what we're gonna do.
Meanwhile, the producers are like, no, you can't do this, and they're like, watch us.
Yes. Hold our adult beverages, please.
Right?
Like, hold on to your butts. Especially because it's like 7 Seas of Rye is supposed to be like a big hit for them. But honestly, I've never heard it on the radio.
Well, probably
and I don't
in Britain, because it took them a while. It took them a while to come over here. Another one another one, Bites the Dust, was a big hit here in the States, but back in the UK they were like phew, people. It was nuts. Yeah, but it took them a while to get big.
Yeah. Well, and from what I understand, Queen 2 is actually considered like not that well known. It's kind of a sleeper album.
Yeah, it's really weird to me, but
yeah,
okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And again, I have like all of Queen sitting here on my iPhone, and I kind of listen to like, what am I in the mood for?
Yep.
And also,
it's like I just have a makeup playlist on Spotify. It's the entire Queen catalog.
Yep.
Well, and I will say this: so when Alex was a baby, like tiny baby, we realized that we would listen to Queen and he would fall asleep to it. I mean, it just
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I don't know what it was. He's not really that into it anymore, which makes me a little sad. But White Queen, as it began, was one of the songs in his playlist rotation that would help him fall asleep. And that one's on Queen too. And I'm like, oh, I love this song. It's just so peaceful. It makes me think of like, rocking him to sleep and everything like that. So I'm like, oh, this one is special. But not that I didn't know it before, but it was just that one, like, yeah. It's just very sweet. In my mind, I don't think the lyrics are particularly sweet, but they're very soothing for the little guy. So anyway, but yeah, I just listen to Queen, man. I wasn't there. I don't know what was a hit and what wasn't. What wasn't on the radio. I'm like, I'm just listening. These are my guys.
Yeah,
this is great.
Yeah. Well, they had the band that we know as Queen had been performing together since 1970, middle of 1970. They've been doing clubs, college shows, that sort of thing. When they were asked to test out the equipment at a new recording studio, so they got to be guinea pigs. So they walked away with a demo tape of 5 songs. Yeah.
Well,
Keep Yourself Alive, The Night Comes Down, Great King Rat, Jesus, and Liar. So they sent the demo out to various labels and only received 1 offer, which they declined because it was lowballed. And also it happened to be the label that a group you may have heard of called Genesis was on, and Queen was afraid that they'd be second fiddle to Genesis. So,
don't blame them.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
Granted, Genesis didn't last, but
no. Or that incarnation of Genesis didn't last.
Yeah, or at least that incarnation of Genesis didn't last. A couple of those guys went on to have decent solo careers. You may have heard of them in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
if record producers could have crystal balls and know who's fine and who to not.
What? Yeah, but also the thing is, it's like, when you've gotten the same product out of the band, if those producers that turned them down had those crystal balls, it's like, would you still have the same outcome? Maybe not.
That is true. And like sometimes, and this is kind of cliche, but it is true, is that sometimes getting rejected actually makes for better art, better music, better writing. So I mean, it's cliche and whatever, but you gotta know struggle to know
success.
Make yourself better. Yeah, that one. But it is very true.
Yeah. So it just so happened that there were a couple producers that visited that studio while Queen was there, and they liked what they saw. So they recommended them to Trident Studios, and which was a very popular and prolific studio. So Queen was only able to use the studio during downtime. So like late evenings. So they were free to use whatever they wanted, but they had to be willing to like record in the middle of the night when
you do
everyone
what you
was
gotta
already
do.
Yeah. So that's how they ended up, and the Trident agreed to do all their managing, recording, and publishing while they found themselves a proper record deal. So that's how they got started with their first album. So they finally got that straightened out and recorded and released their first album, just called Queen. So this one has been described as hard rock, progressive rock, and heavy metal.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. And of course, most of the songs are either written by Freddie or Brian May, which would be the case for a lot of Queen, actually.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, eventually the other two
later.
Eventually the other two would try their hand at songwriting, but Freddie and Brian were they were it.
Yeah. John and Roger were just like, we're just here. Yeah, we're here. Hey.
Yeah.
What's up? Tell us what to play.
They got John just because they're like, we need a bassist.
Yeah.
It's like, you play bass. Okay, come here.
Yeah.
You're in our band now.
Okay, just tell me when to come in.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. Although Roger does sing on this one, I
yes,
I noted.
Yep.
Which I'm kind of like, I know he's older now and his voice is a little more gravelly, but it's the same. It's Roger.
It's distinctive.
Yeah. That's why if you don't know why that joke in Weird Al Yankovic's story is funny, that's why. So anyway, so they're the first track and one of their first singles to be released is Keep Yourself Alive. Which is
quite the
one of those
tapper.
Which is one of those songs that they had been singing in shows and really enjoyed it, and when they went to try and record it, they just could not quite get the same feel. So
I
like
could see why.
Their demo version is their favorite version, and then when they went to do a proper recording for the album, they just like they could not quite get the same magic as they had in the original version and the live version that they would perform. So but yeah, Freddie said that the song was a very good way of telling people what Queen was about in those days. I mean, really, that's just life in general. Try and keep yourself alive.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Belladonna cases or no.
Yep. But it was they did release it as a single, and did pretty well. So eventually, it was actually ignored upon its initial release, but then it got re-released in the US in 1975 and gained a little more traction then. So, which I don't know why. Personally, I don't know why. Supposedly, some people had issue with the fact that the guitar intro takes too long before you actually get to the meat of the song. Like,
my goodness.
Whatever.
Oh, jeepers,
guys! Just you wait. You wait.
There's a 6-minute song in your future that you are just gonna love.
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, there's a 6-minute song that we're going to talk about.
True.
That's their second longest compared to that other song.
Yep.
And then Doing All Right. Yeah. Doing All Right, which was...
I love the harmonies on that one.
Which was written by Brian May and actually Tim Staffel while they were still in Smile, which was the band before Queen was formed. So, but it's one of the few songs that features Brian on piano, because live Freddie plays the piano. So, but yeah, it's a good song. I like it. So. Great King Rat, which is it's like you have like your Queen song that you expect to hear like concert, and then you get stuff like Great King Rat, and you're just like, yeah, okay.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, they probably would never perform that one in concert. I mean, it's almost like Freddie Mercury met Mother Goose, and
some of these were never played live just because you could not replicate those sounds in live, a live performance. There's a reason that the Beatles stopped touring after a while, because the stuff they were doing in the studio you just couldn't replicate then. You can now. Right, really easily with computers and stuff, but back then, you couldn't do some of the effects and stuff like that. So,
yeah, but this one you pop it in and then you just throw the horns and start headbanging.
Yeah,
yeah, pretty much.
Because it is just that metal.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and we'll leave it up to you to interpret whether King Rat is a literal rat, or if they mean that in like a "you dirty rat" type of
you killed my brother, you dirty rat.
Yeah, type of moniker.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many rats die of syphilis.
Yeah, that's true.
But
or maybe this is a nod to that certain record producer that gets his own song dedicated to him later on. Who knows?
Maybe, I don't know.
That is entirely
like I said, we'll let you self-interpret whether a rat is literal or not. So.
That is up to the listener.
Yep. Which I'm sure is, Freddie was still with us, he'd be like, absolutely, that's kind of the point.
Circle gets the square.
Yes. And then our first reference to the land of Rye in My Fairy King, which was a fantasy world he helped create with his younger sister. While it is something that he helped made up, he is influenced by literature and art. There's some references to the Pied Piper of Hamelin, which is a poem that I don't know how many of us actually know the poem, but I think most of us have heard the story.
Yes.
Of the Pied Piper who goes into town and plays his little pipe and rids the town of all the vermin. In this case, literally. So,
yep.
So yeah. But a lot of the editing and overdubbing techniques that were used in this, we will hear again in Bohemian Rhapsody. So, and this is also has a reference to Freddie's name change, where he took the stage name Freddie Mercury as opposed to his actual given name, Freddie Bulsara.
Yeah. Which you listen to that lyric and you're kind of like, if you don't know, you're like, what came first, the lyric or the moniker? And I was like, it was the lyric. Because the lyric, it actually does say, Freddie did say that lyric is in reference to his own mom. So it makes sense.
And that is all of side 1, and then side 2 starts with
yes, one of my favorites. Another one
originally
of my favorites.
Titled Lover,
which is poetic.
Yeah.
in some way.
So, it's one of 3 Queen tracks that feature a Hammond organ. The other 2, Now I'm Here and Under Pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bit of trivia you can stick in your pocket. This song, well, the song itself maybe not the most notable or memorable or whatever, in Queen lore is the song that, how do I want to put this? Air quote, helped the band decide how they would divvy out songwriting credits.
Interesting.
Because Brian brought it up one day, as they're working on all these songs, and Freddie decided that the lyricist or the individual who originates the song should be credited as its writer, despite what other band members may contribute, essentially. So, which that's what they decided to do until the miracle over a decade later. So,
yep.
So it's it's an interesting song and again, it's one of those, it's like, how do you want to interpret these lyrics? Because it sounds like you have this guy confessing to all of these things he's done. He's like, I've raised my hand to somebody, I've stolen, I've cheated, I've done all these things, and then you have this chorus that's just like, liar, like, what, he didn't do it? What?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Or is it really you're a liar and that's just like the worst thing you could do? And then The Night Comes Down, written by Brian May, which has several of the themes that you kind of hear a lot from Brian's writing: coming of age, nostalgia over the loss of childhood, difficulties of being an adult. Because he wrote this not long after Queen formed, so he's coming off the breakup with Smile. So I'm sure that maybe had some influence as well. And I don't think Brian May's ever said outright, but some people think there's a reference to Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
That is possible.
Because there's the lyric, Lucy was high and so was I, dazzling, holding the world inside. Which Brian is a confessed Beatles fan, but he's never outright said that was a direct reference to Lucia. But I wouldn't fault him if it was. So
nope.
And then Roger Taylor, his modern times rock and roll.
Yep.
It is. It's just a very much just a rockin' song, just about rock and roll and how awesome rock and roll is. But yeah, Roger Taylor wrote and sang that one. So on the album, in concert, Freddie sang it, of course. And then Son and Daughter, written by Brian May. This was the B-side to Keep Yourself Alive. It was played at the very first concert under the name of Queen in 1970. And was a regular part of their live concerts for almost a decade. So, and then Jesus, which just by the name of the song, you can
Although
probably guess what the subject matter is.
Yes.
It's a pretty straightforward, you know.
Yeah, it is.
Pulling any punches.
Yeah, it is.
People are kind of, you know, sometimes they try to tackle religious stuff and they try to get cute with it and all of it. Like, nah, this is basically a story from the Bible, which is interesting.
Like, hey, there's this guy. His named Jesus.
Yep.
We're all going down to see him. I wonder if it's their version of the telling of Palm Sunday.
That could very well be it. Listening to it, and it's just interesting because you know, Freddie was what is this, Parsi Zoroastrian? I can say this.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you know, he still is like, I'm gonna write this song about a religious figure that maybe I'm not you know, a believer of, but hey, this will resonate with people. So there you go.
Well, I mean, at the very least, you could be, you know, if you wanted to, you could be like, well, even if he wasn't a believer, the Bible is a literary work, and if anything else, Freddie was influenced by literature, and this just happens to be a book that gave him a song idea. So
it's just like I said, people try to get cute with certain subjects.
Well, yeah. Some people try to read way into stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what you're reading, but it ain't the same thing as the rest of us.
Yeah. No, it's a good song. I like it.
Yeah.
It's solid.
Yep.
And then finishing up is 7 Seas of Rye, or like I said, I call it the 75 seconds of Rye because it's 1 minute and 15 seconds long.
And just an instrumental.
Yep. Because that's all Freddie had written up to that point.
Yep. And they were going to, in the next album, use the rest of the song as the intro. It didn't work out that way, but it still feels like a bridge of sorts between the two albums. Like you said, Rachel, this is very much a part 1, part 2, which is probably why it's Queen and Queen 2. Not just because it's the second one. There are many layers to this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Queen. So that's.
And it did. Like I said, it did okay. You know, you know, people like the guy in Rolling Stone and other press people are like, yeah, this is pretty good for a debut album. So so yeah, not bad for a first time out album.
Yeah.
But then not even a year later, because it was released July of 73, and then March of 74, they released Queen 2 because they were actively writing even while fussing over trying to get the first album done. They were like, we're just ready to move on to the next one.
And the album cover,
iconic.
It kind of became the you know, they have the Queen coat of arms, which comes later, but then this kind of is, I don't want to say the logo of it, but of the band, but
it's imagery that
from it's associated with them from you'll see it again throughout their career.
Yeah, maybe in a you know, a video for a song called Bohemian Rhapsody.
and reuse later for oh crap, what's that? I just totally blanked on the other song that came.
And it's also been parodied quite a lot too. Yeah. So anytime you get multiple people and in black and white and they're lit that way, you're just all like, oh yeah, I see what they're doing. Which that in itself was influenced by an image of Marlene Dietrich. So from the 1930s. So
there you go.
Yeah. but that iconic Queen black background, lit faces became and that's what they wanted. They wanted something striking that would get people's attention, because the cover art for the first one is Freddie on stage.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, it's like, okay, it's a guy who's singing. Okay, this is an album with music on it. Great. That doesn't really tell you a whole lot, but this is, that image is striking. So it is very.
And also hair.
Yes.
Lots of hair.
Yeah.
It was the 70s, guys.
It was.
Early on when I saw that, and I'm like, okay, I know Brian because he's got the really curly hair. And then I'm like, hey, John or Roger, which one are you? I figured it out, obviously, but it's just like, So anyway, so there's the cover, and then dive into it. So it had so instead of side A and side B, which the term B side comes from children, but this one was side white and side black. I'm not sure why exactly, other than they just wanted it something different because it's Queen and that's what you do.
Yeah. That's a big chunk of it, because that's why is Queen do anything? Because it's and again, this is one of those where some people have tried to label this a concept album, but it's not really, because the theme is very loose. But according to Freddie, in a interview in 1976, he said it just evolved to where there was a batch of songs that be considered aggressive or a black side, and then there was a smoother side, the wet side.
So it just is kind of like, these songs sound like this and these songs sound like that. And it's not, because
and they even did
people you think A side, oh, these are better, and B sides are so let's not assign value to it. Let's just now I'm interpreting, because that's what we do. After I giggled at people who do that. But it's just, hey, how you feeling? Smooth or aggressive? Pick one. And we just do colors. Sounds good to me.
And they even coordinated the labeling, the literal labels on the record, so that iconic Queen image, there is a white version of it. So instead of them being in with a black background, it's them with a white background. So
they were nothing if not clever.
And cohesive. That being said, it is the white side, which is the first side. 4 of the 5 songs were composed by Brian May. Freddie sings 2 of them. Brian sings 1. Roger Taylor sings on 1. And Freddie composed and sang all 6 songs on the other side, on the black side. So side white, Procession, which is instrumental. It's supposed to be a funeral march, essentially.
Which is an interesting way to begin your brand new album, but okay.
Yep. So, but again, like I said, you get the shortened version of Seven Seas of Rye, and then you get to this, and if back in the day, kids, when you had listened to records, when Queen, the first album would be done, the time it would take you to take it off the record player, put it back in its sleeve so that it stays protected, and safely put it away, and then get Queen 2 out, put it on the record player and get it going. It's almost like a little intermission. And if you've ever been to, at least with musicals, usually going in intermission, it's a musical number, and when they come back, it picks up with more music. So in a way, it's like you're headed into the second half of this show. this story that's, this very loose story that's being told to you. It's almost like you could almost take the stuff that matches together in little clumps, and it's almost like an anthology. So it's not one big cohesive story, but there's some stories that kind of go together. So, yeah, you got the procession.
Like your A plot and your B plot.
Yeah, so it's like you got your procession. Lets you know the second half of the show is starting. So, get settled in your seat and be prepared to be entertained. And then it goes into father to son, which is it doesn't quite, not the same feel, but the idea of family communicating with each other, is a nice other side of the coin, I guess, to son and daughter. So now you got father to son. It's a father speaking to his son. So, but I think this one's more heavy than son and daughter. So, and then you've got White Queen.
Yes.
As it began. Alex's nighttime song.
Yes. And I still love it. It's still so pretty and still so sweet. And I don't know, it's like I also have I throughout the years I like make playlists like that have to do with, a story I'm reading, or, kind of whatever fandom I'm currently into, or whatever, and I just want some music to kind of go along with it, and I've used this one several times. But yeah, Alex, when he was a baby, he really got, that was one that he would just listen to and rock him to sleep, and we play it on a loop, or with some other Queen music, and that one I just associate it with rocking my little boy to sleep now. Which I mean, this is what it is. I tried to get him to listen to Queen one other time. He's like, no, I want something else. And I was like, oh, come on, kid.
Like, give it time, it'll probably come back into the cycle.
It'll come back, I'm sure. As we introduce more and more, expand his palette, his musical palette.
Yes.
It'll get there, but yeah. So that's my thing. But it is just it's a fun song. It's a pretty song, and I love it.
And this is it's another Brian May song. But also influenced at least somewhat by literature.
Yes.
The White Goddess by Robert Graves. And also a girl that he had a bit of a crush on in school. He thought was the perfect woman. The girl in his biology class. They were never together romantically, but apparently they became friends, and were friends for a very, very long time.
Hey, if you made that much of an impact to inspire Brian May to write a song,
yep,
you did something right.
Yeah, yep. And if you think, and I thought this when I was listening to it, if you think you hear a sitar in here, your ears are deceiving you, because it's not an actual sitar. It's an acoustic guitar that's been modified.
Brian and jiggery pokery.
They replaced they replaced the bridge. And put some fret wire. Put a piece of wire on the fret so it was between it and the strings. So yeah, it created a bit of a buzzing sound, kind of like a sitar. So I was like, oh, because I was listening to it, I was like, oh, cool, like a sitar. And I'm like, nope, not actually, just a modified acoustic.
You got to say this for Queen: they went to great lengths to get the sound that they wanted, and without synthesizers, at least at this point in the career. Like, nope, like we'll bang 2 trash can lids together or whatever. Or wire up the guitar to sound like something else.
We will use British coinage as our guitar picks to help create that certain sound.
Raid the junk drawer. Let's see what we got.
Yes.
Yeah.
The good kitchen sink method.
Yep.
Exactly.
Hey, whatever works.
Yep, and we love them for it. But yeah, it has a very unique sound, very soft and soothing, and yeah, it's definitely got that whole fantasy, mythological vibe to it. Although I love that it was inspired by a girl in a Brian May's biology class. That's just that just takes the cake.
Yeah. Because it's not just going to be a girl in any class. This is Brian May we're talking about. It's going to be a science class.
Exactly. Yep.
That is true.
The man has a PhD for a reason.
Yes, he does.
And then we've got Someday One Day, which is another May song. Yep. It's actually the first Queen song to feature Brian on lead vocals. So, and then the last song on the white side, The Loser in the End, which is Roger Taylor's contribution. Yep. He wrote and sings lead. So, and apparently the original handwritten lyrics still exist. I wish I knew more of the story. Unfortunately, there is not a reference to like an article or book or anything in the Wikipedia entry for me to see what kind of almost happened. They were almost shredded in 2004.
Oh dear.
I don't know what the story is behind that. If somebody knows where I can read something more about how that almost happened, please let us know. Because I need to know more about how this almost happened. Thankfully, they didn't, and they are now carefully stored in the Queen Archive, and are actually the oldest example of handwritten lyrics in the Queen Archive. If they've been destroyed, that would not be the case.
Well, whatever secretary or somebody who was shredding papers and noticed that, and stopped before it was shredded, yay for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could have showed the person who was supposed to do the binning of stuff for BBC, could have stopped something from going into the fire.
That too.
TV prosperity.
Yes. There are some things that are worth keeping, my friends.
Yes.
You would be surprised.
Handwritten Queen lyrics are definitely one of them. Even if it's a song that is not as well known as.
Yeah. No. So now we switch to the dark side. Side black. Come to the dark side. We have cookies and ogres.
Yes.
Yes.
The ogres have cookies. With starting off with Ogre Battle, which again, if you were curious of what this song is about, it literally tells you in the title. Jesus is about Jesus. Ogre Battle, exactly what it sounds like. It is a battle of ogres.
What it says on the tin.
Yep. There's no false representation here. What you see is what you get. Funnily enough, one they were performing live well before they actually recorded this album. Why this? I don't know what version it sounded like live before they got into the studio, because this is like, you want to talk about a song that tells a story where in the middle of it, you literally have like the sounds of like clashing weapons and screaming, which that's Freddie doing the screaming. and sound effects trying to sound like a giant battle.
It's awesome. I imagine that many an author has put that on to get them in the mood to write a battle scene.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you names. I don't know for sure, but I'm certain somebody somewhere, multiple somebodies probably, has done this. Because that's just what this is.
Yeah. And even after they recorded it, it was still a regular part of their set list up until A Day of the Races, which was 76. So they performed this song for quite a long time. So
it sounds like a fun one to do, even live. Like I mean, there's probably some stuff they couldn't do live, but it still sounds. I do have one of their live albums, and they do it on that live album, and yes, it sounds different, but still, it slaps.
yeah. So, but at one point, it was considered for a single release. I don't know how well that would have done on the air. Well, they had another version with that didn't have the intro or the sound effects. That was going to be potentially released as a single. I don't think it would have nearly as fun though.
Probably not.
Like, what would have been the point releasing a song called Ogre Battle without the battle in the song?
Yeah, I mean, now I'm curious I'm wondering how it would have worked, and I would love to hear it just to hear it, just to be like, oh, that's what it was. But yeah, maybe it would have worked. Who knows? But first glance, maybe not. But who knows? We'll never know.
Nope, we will not. And then we have another very fantastical influenced song, the Fairyfellers Masterstroke, which is inspired by both a painting and the companion poem that goes with it. So the painting is the Fairyfellers Masterstroke by Richard Dodd. And then there's a poem called Elimination of a Picture and its Subject called the Fairyfellers Masterstroke. And that's where Freddie would have got all the names of Queen Mab and and Wagner Will and all those others. So
I mean, those were already figures in literature anyway, but yeah, for the painting,
yeah. So and apparently, in some markets, if you bought the album, it included a fold-out reproduction of the painting.
Cool.
Which,
well, that's useful because
which, according to a post on his blog, supposedly by his recollection, as best he can, did end a version of the album and the copy of the painting ended up in the hands of a child Neil Gaiman.
Oh wow.
So he has a blog post about it, which I will have linked in the show notes. And then apparently he did a longer essay version of it for some magazine that unfortunately you cannot read because it's behind a paywall. But you can read Neil Gaiman's blog free, no problem. Yeah. So, but yeah, apparently this painting means something to Neil Gaiman.
Well, it's interesting in his post. In his post, he's all like, yeah, I saw the copy in the album and it didn't really make an impact. Then I actually saw the real one in a museum, and that's when it was like, you got to see the actual, which I'm like, I believe you. I don't know if I'll ever get to go to see that. So I will content myself with what I can see on the internet and try to like look really closely and, I'm listening to the song.
Yeah. And this one was only performed a few times live. And actually they thought there were no live recordings of it until There's a version of it on Live at the Rainbow 74. And then kind of the other end of this kind of story medley triple song sandwich is Nevermore, because the three songs flow like really into each other as kind of one big thing. The piano bit carries over through all three. So but yeah, it's just it's a ballad about heartbreak. And then that 6-minute song, 6+ minute song. This is the band's second longest at 6 minutes and 34 seconds. The March of the Black Queen.
Yep. So if we had White Queen for the white side of the album, there must needs be a Black Queen for the black side of the album.
And he'd actually been working on this one even before Queen was formed. So in an interview he said later, that song took me ages to complete. I wanted to give it everything to be self-indulgent or whatever.
That's Freddie.
Yeah. But it's you can I mean, obviously, like, the story it's telling is different. The sound is unique of its own. You're not going to mistake it for anything else, but you can hear the ideas of telling a story over the course of a song, but not have the song just be one style for the entire thing. You go from one style to another style to another style, and you do different techniques with the editing, layering vocals and doing different things with the instruments and stuff. It's you can see the ideas that will later go into Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yep.
And what makes Bohemian Rhapsody one of the greatest songs of all time. So
so this is definitely a precursor to that. This was Freddie going,
different tempos, different time signatures, different keys. So because even Brian May said, you've as a precursor to Bohemian Rhapsody, he said, you've got to bear in mind that we've already made My Fairy King on the first album, and we've done the March of the Black Queen on the second album. So we were well in tune with Freddie's excursions into strange areas, and that was something that we really enjoyed.
Yeah, I figure if they didn't enjoy it, they wouldn't have done it.
Right.
Yeah.
But luckily for music, they did enjoy it, and we all and we all benefit.
Yeah, and according to Mr. Taylor, apparently with all of the layering and all the things that they were doing, at one point the tape that they were recording on went transparent.
I think the same thing happened too with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes. Yep. They literally wore the tape out.
We
They
lucky
wore the color off of the tape.
The tape, the magnetic.
We are lucky we got what we did.
Yes.
That poor tape. It's like, oh, you brave little piece of whatever you are.
Yes.
You help make music history. Thank you for holding up, even to the very end. Oh man, they it's intense.
Yeah. No.
What they did.
Of course, this is never at least complete, and it's never been performed live as you hear it on the album. It's too complicated. They have done bits and pieces of it in medleys, They've used the opening piano piece as a way to go transition into the Bohemian Rhapsody. So, but yeah, it's way too complicated for it to be performed as is. Then it probably could now. You'd be doing a lot of effects on a computer, but yeah, you potentially could do it. Potentially could do it now. So,
oh man, can you imagine Freddie Mercury with a computer?
Yeah. Oh boy.
With the modern, with a
kid in a candy store.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Him and John Lennon.
Yes.
Yeah, I think somewhere in heaven, someone has said, "Here, you two, go nuts," and given them, this is what they're using on Earth now. And they're like, ah.
The afterlife recording studio is hopping all the time.
Yes.
So talking David Bowie into that mix.
Well, David was around long enough that he could be like, I've got actual experience with this. Let me show you a few things.
Here, boys.
Yeah. So when you get up to the pearly gates and St. Peter is like, here, welcome to heaven, and you hear the dulcet tones of Freddie Mercury, doing his thing with a whatever modern PC that they have when you finally kick the bucket, you're just gonna nod and say, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Point me in the direction of the music department, please.
It's like where's the Freddie, Bowie, and Lennon concert? I gotta get tickets, man.
Yes.
Well, the thing is at one point Queen approached David Bowie to produce this album.
Oh, you're kidding!
But he couldn't do it because he was in the middle of doing Diamond Dogs.
Oh wow!
So he was already occupied with one of his own albums. So, but yeah.
Well, they got him later, so it's okay.
Yep. So then the penultimate song, Funny How Love Is. It is kind of funny. This is one of those just kind of happy, lovey, type songs that Freddie popped out every now and then.
It's like, this one will make money. Here we go.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Not anything groundbreaking, but it's fun. Although they did use the wall of sound technique. I don't know why you'd necessarily use something like that for a song like this, but whatever.
Yeah.
Practice.
Yeah. Another one that was never performed live, mostly because the high register that was required from Freddie would have been a bit too straining. And then we get the proper completed version of Seven Seas of Rye.
Yes. It's like, we got the teaser in the last one, and now you get the full course. And again, this one's great. I do enjoy it. Maybe not necessarily a headbanger, but just it's fun. It's lovely.
Yeah.
I know I'm using that word a lot, but it just fits for this album, I think.
Yeah.
And again, it's like,
it's
Freddie,
just one of those.
Where are those fantasy stories? I want to read them.
Yeah.
If they exist. I mean, because dang, you and your brain, man.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but yeah, it was added as the closer for Queen 2. So, which it's not a whole lot longer, actually, than the 75 seconds of Rye. It's still less than 3 minutes long. But it doesn't have it has all the lyrics and stuff too, which the instrumental version obviously does not. So, but yeah, and this was one that Freddie had been working on for a long time as well. He'd started this in the late 60s as a song, and still didn't have it done when they finished the first album, which is why we got the shortened version. But by the time they get to the second album, he's like, I got it.
Here we
go.
go.
The whole thing.
Put that on there.
Yep. Cut print. So yeah. And it went over fairly well. It was released as a single in the UK and Japan. The B side of the UK version was See What a Fool I've Been. And then in Japan, the B side was A Loser in the end. So it certified silver in the UK. So it was performed live. They dropped it in 76, and then they brought it back during the Works tour in the 80s. So yeah. And the critics liked it. One critic called it a high-energy rocker with Led Zeppelin overtones, stating that the group's extraordinary talents are perfectly displayed here in heavy metal fashion. Which you don't necessarily think of Queen and think of heavy metal, but, that's kind of a thing with Queen in general. And we've discovered from the albums that we have covered so far is really, like, you could put them under the rock umbrella that is very, very broad. But honestly, they just wrote and recorded whatever the hell they wanted, and it didn't matter what if it was cohesive in style or not. When you can have something like Bohemian Rhapsody, which is this long epic opera story song with all these different styles all in one song, and then have something that's kind of a cool rock song, but ridiculous with I'm in love with my car.
Right. Yep.
And then Bicycle Race, which is all, it's like you got all these different songs, but it's all, you listen to it and it doesn't matter. It, for those of us that have listened to enough of, of Queen, it's like, no, it's Queen.
Yep.
So here's the dirty little secret, and this applies to anything that you try to categorize by genres. So music, books, movies, all that. Creative people are going to write what they're going to write. They're going to go whatever interests them, and if they're motivated enough, they're going to finish it and write it and put it out there. The only people that are obsessed with genre are people like libraries and bookstores who are like, crap, where do I shelve this? Because we have this in our head that all the fantasy has to go with the fantasy, all the romance has to go with the romance, all of the heavy metal has to go with the heavy metal, all of the bubblegum pop has to go with the bubblegum pop. And creative people just don't think that way. But all of us who are like obsessed with organization and everything has to have a place. Yeah, trust me, this is an argument that librarians have had for years and years and years, and will continue to have. Well, meanwhile, authors and musicians are stuff like, today's my bubblegum pop day, and that's what I'm gonna do. And so that's how it is. And Queen is one of those, like, and sometimes it works, and sometimes people are like, no, I thought you were this kind of thing. Now you're doing this other kind of thing. That's not right. But Queen is one of those that's like, it worked for them. And people enjoyed it. And I think by and large, people just, they have their favorite genres, but then their bands will do different things. You're like, okay, this is different. You either like it or you don't. But it doesn't change the fact that your favorite band did that. And yeah, so it's just funny when they're all like, where do we put this? And it's like, well, it's a good thing rock is a big umbrella.
Like, you put it in the section titled Queen.
Yes, that is exactly it. They have their own little section, and that's it.
Or you put said copies in multiple spots.
Yeah.
But see, then that ticks everybody off.
Then you guarantee people stumble across it no matter where they go.
True. But again,
yes,
working at the library, people are very anal about where we put things.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily the patrons, because sometimes they're like, oh, I thought this would have been over here, and it's like, no, it's actually over here. Like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. But before, they're like, I'm so lost. Like, that's why we create our own job security, because we hide stuff in plain sight. Oh, it makes sense on some sort of weird scale, but but music, but we have this argument more about books than anything. Music, we're just kind of like, rock, that works. But anyway, so but that's one of my favorite things about Queen is like, are you looking for heavy metal Queen? Are you looking for synth pop from the 80s? Are you looking for prog rock? Are you looking for,
Brian's old-fashioned 1920s.
The 1920s stuff. Are you looking for innuendo, which is a class of its own? What are you in the mood for? And Queen probably has something.
Yep.
So there you go. That's why we love them. That's why I love them. Also, Freddie Mercury is a treasure. We were blessed to have him as long as we did.
Yes.
I maintain that. But anyway, so quite the 1-2 punch for their first couple of outings, and and they went on from there, and we've talked about Sheer Heart Attack, right?
No, we have not.
Not yet.
Oh, we've not. Oh, okay. Maybe we talked about that. Anyway, we'll get there eventually.
We've done Night at the Opera, which is
which
after
has
that.
Sheer Heart. Which has the song Sheer Heart Attack.
Sheer Heart Attack.
I was getting. Because as far on top of crossing genres and stuff, they also had an album which didn't have the song that it was supposed to be named after, which is on the next one.
Well, Sheer Heart Attack is on News of the World.
Oh, News of the World.
Yes, which we have done.
Yes. I knew we talked about it. Anyway.
And we have done Hot Space.
Hot Space. Wasn't that the first one we talked about? And I was like, we're starting with this one?
No. I think we did Night at the Opera first. Start with the one that's got Bohemian Rhapsody on it. You can't, there's the bar is set. You can't go any higher than that. So
right.
True. That's true.
No, I tell you, I am looking forward to talking the rest of the Queen catalog down the line.
Yes. Oh, my heart. I mean, when we get, I think I've said this before, when we get to the Miracle, I'm going to gush, because that one's my favorite. I love Innuendo. Innuendo, you cannot, it's like, that is the crown jewel. I prefer the Miracle just because I do. It's me, but I always have to preface this because people are like, no, Innuendo is the best. I'm like, I agree with you. Totally. Miracle's just kind of one of my favorite.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, we are excited to talk more Queen as we go along, and we'll let you know as we do. So anyway, anything else we want to pipe in about?
Good stuff. Such good stuff.
Good.
Yep,
it's good stuff. And now I'm like, I want to go binge listen again just because happy.
Yeah.
Yep. Makes me happy. So anyway, if any of our dear listeners want to chime in with their thoughts on these two albums, if you have a favorite song or a story you've heard about these songs and whatnot, you can send us some feedback, and also talk about anything else we discussed during the news and such. Our feedback email address is fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, which is thefiveishfangirls.com, and that has links to all of our social media pages. You can leave comments and see what we're up to. Look at the show notes. Like we said, we've got some links that go along with our episode today. If you want to check those out, you certainly can. And you can also find ways to support the podcast through Patreon and our merch shop. And that is always appreciated, as well as thank you for all of our listeners for those who comment and interact with us on social media. It's always appreciated. And just thanks for coming on the ride with us.
Yes.
We'll see you when we see
you.
Yep.
All right. Well, with that, we shall sign off for this week.
This is Chrissy saying goodnight from Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. And somehow we managed to keep ourselves awake.
We're talking about Queen, and I can do that. I can do that.
Mm-hmm. Something cake.
Yep.
The only thing I can think of that rhymes with awake. Cake! Thank you for listening to the Fiveish Fangirls. Please visit thefiveishfangirls.com for details on how to further support the show, along with information on our nonprofit, Fangirls Give Back. We love our Fiveish fam and appreciate all of your feedback, shares, and encouragement. Remember to keep letting your geek flag fly.